Let's do it!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode
Hello.
of Ramblemancy. You can feel the hype already. Tonight we are joined by Chance. Chance, welcome back.
Hi.
I'm very
Hello.
excited to have you back. Like John said right before we went live, this is really just an update so that we can get updates on like your new hobbies that you've gotten since the last time we talked about.
Oh my
And
God, so many. Too many.
yeah,
I need to stop.
I feel like you maybe I made this up, but I feel like you once described yourself as a hobby collector.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is my ultimate collection.
Mhm.
yeah.
I have many, but that is the
Your
ultimate
real
one.
hobby is collecting hobbies. It's like
Yes.
a meta hobby. Like
Yeah,
I
it's how I keep
know
things in check.
yeah, absolutely.
I know a
Um
few people like that, and they are so impressive to me. I think they're
yeah,
so cool.
I don't have I don't know how you do that.
Are they on a rotation? Do they have a schedule or?
Some of
Custody
them do,
arrangement.
actually.
That's what I was gonna say. Like you can have so many hobbies and just like put one on the back burner for a while and then bring forward a new one or find a new one, and then at some point down the line, right, you fall in love again with that other one that was like stored in the back of the closet somewhere.
Get
Not
out of
like
my head.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely.
It's
Well,
that's where I'm at though too.
I can tell that we are rearing to go, but before we do that, we actually do
Yeah.
have announcements this time.
I love announcements.
Unfortunately, they are not the most fun of announcements, but I think most of you probably saw this coming. But I am very sad to announce that that Into Deep, our Water Deep Dragon Heist. Did I say those in the right order? Water Deep
Yes,
Dragon
correct.
Heist actual play. Unfortunately, will not be returning. I had a chat with the cast. And they're all in such wildly different places now than they were back when they started. Colin, the GM, has um, like so much less time than he did when this all started. So, unfortunately, Into Deep will not be returning. However, I am absolutely certain that you will see a lot of those people here on the channel in the future, either on Ramblemancy or on future projects. So, but yeah, so give the chat the cast some love. They're all disappointed, but they are all, I think, very much in kind of the same in the same boat, really, that they recognize that this was probably the best move as far as that goes. So as sad as I am that they won't be able to finish it out, I really do think it is the best thing for them. So, but yeah, but for all those of you who came out and supported Into Deep while it was on and watched the episodes here and on YouTube, thank you so much. It is very much appreciated by us and very much so by the cast. So, thanks all of you for that. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the sort of sad announcement. But um, that the good news about that is that it frees a lot of them up to pursue like other projects and things like that, so they aren't kind of in holding pattern for this. So I'm sure you will see them all in various places. So
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of our big one, our only announcement, I think. Right? We don't have anything. No.
Were we gonna announce the subject of?
Yeah,
So
indeed.
you know what? That's fair. Chans, I'm so sorry that the episode that you're here is the one that we finally have announcements for. So
No, it's okay. I'm loving reacting to him. It's fine.
good, good. No, this is good. This is good. So I think that's probably a good idea. So uh, we keep talking about how we are working on actual play projects and stuff like that. And we finally, I think, are in a position where we can announce that a couple months ago we put out a poll to our world building patrons, our Patreons, and we about what our next actual play short series would be, and unanimously, pretty much, they voted on something new within kind of the Tomorrow is Dead universe. That's our zombie kids on bikes game. Something within that universe, and we sort of tossed it around for a little while, trying to decide what we were going to do in that universe. We threw around some ideas, um, and what we ultimately decided is that Tomorrow is Dead will be back with season two. are many of the same cast returning, and yeah, you can all look forward to that. We don't have any specific dates yet. We are still waiting. We do know the system that we're going to use, but that's also a future announcement. So we'll hold off on that. But just in case. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna be. That's what we're gonna be. We're gonna be doing for our next actual play short. We're gonna be starting production in the next month or two. Once things settle down for many of our cast members. So
I have to move.
John has to move. So
More power to you.
yeah. So we're gonna wait for all that to settle down before we start production. But yeah, but we wanted to wait to make sure we had everything basically ready so that we could announce it. So, but everything is in place for that. So we will be getting Tomorrow Is Dead season 2. And I think, you know what? Fuck it. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tease a little bit of extra information. Is that this second season will be taking place a couple of years after the first season, so no longer kids on bikes. So yeah, do with that information what you will.
Theorize and fanfic away.
Yeah, exactly. Those are our big exciting announcements. We'll have more stuff about Tomorrow Is Dead season 2 soon once we've had some chances to discuss some of the logistical stuff on our end. So keep an eye out for that. All right, John, what do you got for us?
Damn it. I was so caught up in the flow of announcements, like, oh yeah, we have these, and just like
Planned it that way.
And then, as always, I just forget. I forget that 8:15 Central, 6:15 Pacific is time for the bless that hits me every week. No, we did joke beforehand that we were having Chance back so that we could have a retrospective on their new hobbies. But like when I jumped in a little bit late to the pre-show call because I was across town with, speaking of moving, my new roommates shoving fried chimkin in my face after picking out
I
colors
love
from
that
the
for
room.
you.
It was a good time.
Mhm.
It was a good time, and I'm glad to be here now. But like I sensed like a similar conversation to one we have been flying around for a while, which is like, what do we do offline as people who are online all of the time?
Too much of the time.
Too much of the
I
time.
need to escape. Let me out.
Yeah, no, truly. I just, a lot of times I was and like for me I was actually talking a little bit about my experience because Chans, you run social media for work now, right?
Yes.
And you also stream too.
Yes.
I was talking a little bit about my experience running just my own personal Twitter account for the month that I was doing a Kickstarter for an RPG book, and I am in awe of people who are able to do that like day in and day out for like managing social media accounts, because it was so much. It was so much. Just like even thinking about, oh, it's been like an hour and a half since I've posted. It's time to go push the retweet button and like comment on all my old posts and stuff. Like, it just, the trying to stay on top of the algorithm is such a wild experience.
The algorithm is not kind or forgiving.
No, it demands
It must
constant
be fed.
engagement. Faces likes those sometimes. It feels like this feels like I'm just describing the like the face stealer episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender right
Oh,
now.
wow.
Okay. Sorry, you totally just gave me this like new little headcanon about the algorithm. So one of my favorite books is American Gods, and the thing I really adored about the book was the fact that it talked about like modern day gods, so media. And so now I have this idea that the algorithm is a modern day god, and we feed to it the different things of like trying to keep up with the schedule, retweeting, like reacting to the way that it wants to be reacted to. Otherwise, you get punished.
Oh, I don't like that.
No, like
that.
fuck like burning incense at a shrine. Like this is
But the thing is, like, if that was true, and in fact the algorithm is a modern day god, it's very much, and this is the part that worries me, it's very much in the style of like the Aztec gods, that like vengeful, like very like demanding horrible sacrifices and things like that.
Yes, it
It's very
is.
much one of those, and that
Your
makes me
sacrifice
very
is your
uncomfortable.
mental health.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
consider it sacrifice. I don't know. I live.
Yeah, consider it sacrifice.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to like write some lore about this later.
I know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Now I'm such wild, and it especially wraps that kind of lore wraps interestingly into a conversation I had with one of my writing professors a few years back, where she was just like, yeah, and like so many like Gen Z kids that are coming into college now, and like people your age too, are they're just like so into it, and like there's gig culture and all of this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, and like the problem is that most of us acknowledge that it exists and the effect that it has on us, but we're sort of compelled to participate in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we don't have a lot of choice.
Especially like those of us who do it like professionally. I was very briefly social media manager and like sort of marketing person for a like for a TTRPG company, an indie TTRPG company, and whew, man, getting eyes on those posts is one of the most stressful things in the world, because you're like, okay, I gotta make this post long enough that it'll give people information that they need, but not so long that they like scroll past it, and I gotta make sure that like the preview text gives just enough information that they want to click on it, but not so much information that like they don't need to click on it, and it's just
Yeah, I have to.
My life.
I have to go to J Dragon's Twitter right now because they posted something about this morning.
Yeah,
it was screenshots from Jay and Ruby's like work chat, and one was back cover marketing copy rendering me nauseous, and it's like the same level of anxiety, like writing copy for shit.
Oh yeah, it
Copies
really
are pain.
it really was a I'm almost as much as like doing a working interview in a coffee shop a few years ago. It was very much a crash course in the fact that I am ill-suited to certain professions. I was like, yep.
That moment when that epiphany hits and you're like, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, and the first one was very much like, I could work in a coffee shop. 2 hours later, I'd never want to work in a coffee shop. Yeah.
Where did this come from? Whoever I was that agreed to this is not me anymore.
That was a different person. 2 hours ago, I was a different person. I came out of this working interview an older, wiser, and perhaps more traumatized individual.
That's an interesting or fun question, I think, too. Like if the algorithm is a modern god, what are other modern gods?
Coffee.
I'm thinking about that. Coffee.
Coffee.
There are people that I know that can't live. Oh my God. One of my best friends and I, we were driving to something and we had to stop by and get our coffee. We rolled into the drive-thru, ordered our drinks, and she's like, yeah, I just want a black coffee with ice. And they're like, oh yeah, what size? And she's like, enough to fill the void in my soul right now.
Oh,
and they're like,
it.
oh, so like a 30 ounce. And she's like, I can get 30 ounces of black coffee. And they're like, yeah. She's like, yes. I'm like, that's a problem.
Now that's customer service. Like they get how many gold stars do we have here? Do we have some gold stars? Can we bring? Come on, get all the gold stars. Like that is amazing.
Could I get the other person, like the person on the other end of this microphone, like a $1 an hour raise just for this like interaction?
What was there was something
that's incredible.
That reminds me that there was something recently that I had a moment where I actually got to truly, genuinely, and organically say, it comes in pints, and I cannot remember what it was.
Oh, I hope you do.
Oh, God. This is going to frustrate me. But, like, no, truly, genuinely, and very organically, I saw it, and I was like, it comes in pints? And it was a great moment. The apex of my life. Like, I have peaked. I can stop now. Like, I'm like, I don't need to have any more experiences because I got that one and we're good. I'm done. Packing it in. Let's go.
Shit, that's so good.
The
I love that.
non-binary god of dating apps. Ooh,
That's a good one. Yep.
That is
That
a
is
good
a good one.
Yeah. And like
Ooh.
non-binary, but like God, but also like very capricious and fickle God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Literally.
there's absolutely a god of dating apps.
Oh, there
And
has
they
to
are.
be.
And honestly, that God is probably like a close relation to the algorithm.
Oh, there has to be. 'Cause
Yeah.
how else, like, does it decide what
Yeah.
person you get on your feed?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Like,
to a
all these
certain-
gods are tied to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, that's a good one. Tonight on Ramblemancy, we're just writing a pantheon of modern gods. Cryptocurrency deities, a tech bro, the platinum vape man.
Oh,
I hate
God,
it.
the tech bros.
Oh no.
Oh god,
That
Dano,
totally is.
there's a cryptocurrency like modern god. I hate that
Yeah.
is like that has to be a thing, but it's gotta be.
Mm-hmm.
The camera
Oh,
glitching has
no.
begun. There it is.
Which god is that? Is that the?
I don't think that's a god. I think that's just like the lack
That's
of
just
one, frankly.
It's just a
Like,
lack. It's just a pain in my ass.
the camera
Oh,
god
yeah.
went on holiday, so
Yeah.
I've been going through the Dresden Files, and so all I can
Mm.
think of every time your technology is hiccuping is that you guys are actually wizards.
no,
If,
no.
for those who don't
no.
know about Dresden Files, the thing in them is that if you're a wizard, technology does not work around you. Like at any given point in time, technology is just going to fail, and that's
That
just how it
honestly
goes.
explains a lot about my cell service over the last like 15 years. Like,
I do remember times where I texted you about like our home D&D game or something like that, and then I would ask you about it during the session, and you'd be like, "What?" And then the next day,
yeah.
you would get the text from me.
Yep.
You're a wizard. You are a wizard.
I wish I'd figured that out sooner, because like, man, my life would have been so different.
Well, I mean, Dresden's life's a little difficult, so I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you could have figured it out in a better or if it might have been worse.
Hey, all I said was different, not better. No, I didn't qualify that one.
True, you're right. You're right.
It's like the first page of Rick Riordan's The Lightning Thief, where Percy, the narrator, is like, if you feel something in you stirring when you read this, put this book down and walk away. You don't want this. You don't want... Being a demigod sounds cool until you have to do it, and then it sucks. So if you feel like you might be one reading this, leave. Which, by the way, coolest fucking way to start a book.
Yeah, that's fucking sweet. And
That is
also
very
brings me
cool.
back to becoming the coffee barista. You're like, it sounded cool, and then it's not.
It's cool in theory until you have to, like, you think about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be this like sexy barista, whatever. I get to deal with people, which I like doing, and whatever. Until you have to do it, and then people look at you like you are a dispenser of coffee, and you are the barrier between them and their morning coffee. And then you realize that not only do you have to deal with people, you have to deal with people before they have had their coffee. And that's not great. So,
Yeah.
In fact,
Oh,
your
What if-
clientele on average is, in fact, people before they've had their coffee.
yeah.
what if it's actually caffeine is the god? And caffeine needed to expand, and that's why we have 1 billion energy drinks now.
Oh, look at that. Oh shit.
Caffeine is expanding its influence and trying to like, yeah, okay. All right. I'm sensing in like a, hey Freeman, that steampunk D&D campaign that we're gonna be on, that's canceled. We're gonna do this instead. This is our next
Okay,
D&D campaign.
I'm down. Well, I've got a character, just so you know.
the god of stimulants.
Yep.
I'm going to be on so many caffeinated drinks. Just like I will be the god will be in my head, just putting these ideas, and I will be in this alchemist lab, just like working
Is the
20-hour nights.
it's
That's
the
not even a thing. But I'll
Dr.
make it a
Jekyll,
thing.
the Dr. Jekyll of this campaign. It's
Yeah,
Oh wow.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I love that idea though.
I've
The
always
god of
wanted to try it.
caffeine being a
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll type.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, that'd be so sick.
I've often thought about a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde build, but
Barbarian.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, barbarian.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
As I
this
said,
is
one
actually
must always pray at the altar of the dark caffeine. It makes my caffeine necklace make much more sense. Incredible, Kate. Incredible, Kate.
what was I gonna say? This reminds me of, because we sort of briefly started talking about this a little bit. We sort of like right before stream, we started briefly touching on the subject of like books and stuff like that. And I know it's something that's come up on a couple previous Ramblemancy episodes, but like I've just started being able to read again.
Woo!
And I'm very excited about. I've like torn through a whole bunch of like Sanderson books and like that I've never read before that have been on my to read list for years.
I love this for you.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So like I recognize that this is a thing that a lot of people have been having trouble with in like recently, but like anybody read any good books lately, or like have just general book talk to like things to get off your chest about books?
It's so funny that this topic comes up because it took many years for me to learn this about myself. I hate reading. Like just books, text, I can't stand it. After like an hour, I just fall asleep. Like it doesn't stimulate my mind or anything like that.
Yeah,
I've learned it's because I'm a visual learner and also a listener. So I do a lot better at just listening to things or visually seeing what's happening. So that's why comic books and manga are like a huge part of my life, because I can actually read that but keep being entertained. And then it wasn't until I want to say August of last year that I was getting kind of tired of a lot of the podcasts I was listening to, and was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and give audiobooks a try again. And holy crap, I am like so in love with reading again through audiobooks. Like it's been such a joy for me, because now I'm like, I can catch up with all of these things. I have so many friends who are into books, so now I'm like reading books that they specifically love, so that way I can like have another level of connection with them. And now I'm also going through like the emotional turmoil of these books, because like Dresden Files I've always loved. I love the TV show. I know that show was not great. A lot of people hated it. That's why it was canceled after a season. But I love the books. It took a little bit to get into, but James Marsters does the voiceover, and he was the one who played Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You know what? You are the second person this week to tell me about this. I just realized I put these pieces together. One of my good friends literally just told me. It was the thing about James Marsters that triggered it. I was like, oh yeah, my friend just told me about this. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, you're good. It's because at first I wasn't too sure. I really enjoyed Dresden Files. I love the world. I love the world building. I'm very big on urban fantasies more than like medieval fantasy or future or anything like that. Like I love urban fantasy. And so I love the world building and all that stuff. And it took me a while to realize like the thing that triggered the connection with the book for me, because at first I was like, I don't like the way Jim Butcher writes women. Like some of his characters, they are strong. They do have their own personalities, but as a whole, he just like really gets into detail about describing them. Whereas with men, he's just like, that guy's wearing a tie, moving on. And I'm like, cool, love this. But something like clicked in my head that it was like, oh, this is from Dresden's perspective. This is how Dresden sees the world. This is how he operates. And this is just who he is as a person. And even though it's not a person that I necessarily agree with, I'm like, I get it. This is just kind of how some people are. And that made me like kind of just scoot past it. And now that the story is actually picking up and getting really, I'm like, oh God, I'm so glad that I'm like so stuck with it. Yeah. And then like, it's, I'm just falling in love with books.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. No, I'm glad. I'm very glad for you. Like it's funny that you say that though, about, because like, what was the book, John, we were talking about? Oh, the King Killer Chronicle. Like that's another one where you are reading it through like the character's perspective, and you're like, but it's sometimes hard to separate the author from the character's perspective. But like one of those things with like The Name of the Wind and those books with by Patrick Rothfuss is that it's really easy to read those books and go, wow, this author, man, he's just a weird guy. He has a weird perspective and whatever. And then if you think about it, then you realize, wait a minute, this whole thing is being told in through a frame narrative by the character that it's about.
Yep.
And he has a very particular way that he views himself and the world around him, and you realize that that's what you're getting, not necessarily like the author's thing. You're getting the author writing the character talking about himself. And that it's for me there was definitely some moments that I did not connect with in those books that I'm just like, ugh, this feels gross to me. But then I realized later it's because that's the character right there. That's the character that is
Unless it's Ready Player One, then that guy's just fucking weird. Fuck that guy.
Oh God,
there's no fixing that one.
No, it's I gotta say, like, that's definitely, I wrote part of my part of my like senior paper as like a literary analysis of Ready Player One, and I read it and I was like, okay, I can get behind this. But then as I was writing about it, I was like, okay, hang on a second. It was in the like when I had to like force myself to do analysis, then I was like, By that point, it was too late to change my book, though. So, like,
that happens.
Yeah.
I remember reading, like, I read the book. I was like, oh, this dude's fucking gross. But maybe it's the character. And then I read the poem that the author wrote about how he sees women, and I'm like, oh, this is actually just you. You put yourself into your book, and everything is terrible now.
I
even
did not
worse.
know that existed, and I hate that.
Oh, it's so disgusting the way he views women. Like, oh my God. I'm like, this is.
I did not know that was a thing.
He could have. Yeah. He could have just not shared that with the world, and maybe. And he did.
There's one specific line that like lives in my head, and it's just him talking about like his ideal woman, and his line was like, I want my porn stars to have PhDs. Like that's like the main girl, I forgot her name in Ready Player One, is supposed to be like not super like she's
John's done.
This is the second time I think I've
this is where John starts climbing out of the scene.
Yeah, this is
Well, I'm gonna be screwing some like some jugs onto my wall here, and then just
climbing away from the
No, I was like, I can't climb out, so I'm just gonna go get the bottle of whiskey. Are you finished this story?
It was like that. It really highlighted that main character. I can't remember, Artemis. It highlighted her to me because, you know, when he sees her in person, she's supposed to be kind of like nondescript, a nerdy type, like just a very stereotypical trope of a quiet girl who has like a facial marking. Like that's how he continues to describe women in his thing. He's like, I don't want like women with just like big boobs. I want them to be like these really intelligent, hyper like focused and PhD. Blah. I'm like, okay, my man. You need to go far away and take this with you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that clip, Matt.
I'm glad that was clipped.
I'm so glad that was clipped.
Also, Spigs, hello. Good to see you.
Hello, Spigs.
My facial journey was probably something like.
Oh, it was so good. Like, I'm so glad it was clipped. I need that specific part as a GIF for reacting to things later.
That's good. That's the.
Anytime somebody's going on about their manic pixie dream girl on social media, you can just pull that GIF out. Like
that's exactly it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thought it.
Down the hatch.
Oh my God. No, I like, and yeah, that's definitely. But no, that's the thing that I've learned to sort of appreciate more is when an author can in fact make that separation from themselves with the character. Because one thing that I will say is I've said, like, I've been very deep into like Brandon Sanderson's work recently. I've like read almost all of the Mistborn books thus far in like a couple months.
Love that.
But one of the things I really like is like I have said that like his characters have a tendency of being like, they're not bad. They're not badly written at all. They're just kind of like, they're a little bit the characters are definitely a vehicle for the plot.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way that those books are written. But there is one thing that I think he did early on in the Mistborn books that I really, really loved, and that was the fact that we, as the readers of the books, know that there's a character that's introduced who is like a genuine like revolutionary, and he's trying to bring about social change or whatever. But the main character, whose eyes we are seeing this guy from, is like, all right, what's this guy's angle? Because that's how she sees the world. She sees everybody. Everybody has an angle. Everybody is like trying to do something. And we know that's not the case because the book opens with like him just like doing some pretty extreme stuff. So we know that's not the case, but she doesn't. And so we see, and the whole like first book is her learning to see the world through the eyes of an idealist, somebody who has like ideals and things like that and isn't just trying to survive. And it's truly fascinating because the whole time that we're living in this person's head, we know what's happening because we're the audience. We're well versed in tropes. We're aware this is a story. The main character is not aware that she's a character in a story, and so she just sees the world that way. And it's a fascinating dichotomy throughout that book. And I just think that kind of thing always is very impressive to me. And I love that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I love that. Oh, that's fantastic.
But yeah.
You saying that, this is unrelated, but it made me think of just a post that someone wrote not too long ago. And they're like, the reason horror movies work is because the people in the movies don't realize that they're in a horror movie. And I was like,
yeah,
because there are times, like me and my brother were having this the other night, where sometimes we go grocery shopping late at night because there's just nobody there. And so it was like 10 p.m. and we get out and there's like, things are just weird. There's like people speeding through the parking lot. There's like a cart that's like stuck halfway between a pole, like all these weird little things. And we're like, is this a horror movie? Are these the signs? Like, how do we know? When would we know that we are in a horror movie and we should get back in the car and leave, actually?
Right.
Like, okay, well, it could, like, there's the flickering halogen bulbs just inside, and like, okay, that might be another indicator, but like, that's just kind of your standard, like, rundown grocery store. So like, maybe that's not. I
mean, there was
even
that
nice
like
one.
Terrifying monster with like blood dripping from its claws, but like,
that's a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday, yeah. Like late night Walmart. Have you ever been to late night Walmart? Come on, like weird shit happens there all the time. Like
it's pretty standard.
It's the night shift, there's gonna be some stuff.
What a great idea for a horror movie in a grocery store called The Night Shift.
The Night Shift, I agree, or Graveyard Shift.
Yeah.
Even better.
I'm almost positive that something with that title exists already.
Probably.
Absolutely.
But we can do it better.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
We could do it from the perspective of a character who doesn't know they're in a horror movie.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. But
we do have something of a horror afición in chat here. Geek Out said The Night Shift and Graveyard Shift are both movies / books.
Are they about grocery stores?
Are they? Yeah, exactly.
That's my key component.
That's the important part here.
Yeah.
Everyone's always. So New Human says everyone's always talking about how the characters in horror movies should have made more optimal choices, and I'm like, do you want this movie to exist or not?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, horror is kind of predicated on the fact that something bad is going to happen to this character, and like they're not coming out of this okay. They might come out of this alive, but they're not coming out of this okay.
That's my problem with like a lot of horror TTRPGs. Like the one time we played Call of Cthulhu way back, like our GM was like, he was like, yeah, here the problem with this game is that playing Call of Cthulhu, it's in the name of the game. You know what game you're playing, and the problem with a horror game is so much of it is in the suspense and build-up, and so much of that is lost just by the players knowing what game they're playing.
Right.
Like, at some point, like, it's just a regular-ass town, maybe a little bit in sort of like a back country, like whatever kind of place, but you know that at some point, things are going to start getting weird, you're going to see a horrifying fish monster, and then you're going to lose your mind. Like, that's just the name of the game. Like, we just know that's what's going to happen.
And I haven't played many Call of Cthulhu, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's I love horror as a genre, and I would love to be able to bring it into a TTRPG, but I still to this day don't think I've managed to do it successfully, mainly for that reason, you know?
Interesting.
Because like,
I'm gonna have to
yeah,
pocket that idea for later.
yeah.
Hmm.
But it's also like, and horror is also tricky because it's also not the kind of thing you want to just like actually surprise your players with, you know? Like that would be the
True,
most
very
effective
true.
way to do horror, but is it the most ethical? Not really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
You gotta start at the very beginning to be like, yo, at some point there's gonna be something horrific. You guys cool with that? And then not tell them when it's gonna happen, and then it'll just
Yeah,
happen.
Yeah,
exactly.
and then it's the combination like safety conversation beforehand, and then you just have something like as many tables do, like your X card or like your
Hmm.
signal or whatever, like whoa, I'm tapping out here, right? And
Yes.
then you say at some point there will be horror. I'm not going to tell you when it is if you're cool with that, so
Yes.
that it can be horrific when it
Yeah.
happens.
Right?
Yeah, so we get the
It's
build
like,
up,
tell
the
me what you
suspense,
specifically don't like.
Yeah, tell me what you don't want to see. I'll exclude that, and then I'll figure out something at some point in this campaign, and we'll have the horror arc. And you'll realize you're in the
Yeah.
horror arc probably an episode or two in.
yeah, like I've never had trouble including like horror elements into games, but like doing a strictly horror game is hard, I think.
Hmm.
Unless one of two things happens. Your players don't know that it's coming in the most ethical way possible, or they do know and they play along. And yeah,
You gotta do the
but
suspense. They know it's coming. They don't know for sure. And any moment you're gonna flip them, and then you don't.
it's
And
like
then
you're
you
just
don't.
you're just playing the Jaws theme on repeat, like in the
Yes.
background, and just like so it's always tense, but they don't know exactly when.
You wait for it to become just background noise because eventually they will acclimate to the Jaws theme being the background music.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when you get somebody who will subtly arrange the theme into something else, and then you switch it to that mid-session and see who notices.
Oh, genuinely, I have a track that is just a remixed oh god, a remixed Sound of Silence, right? To sound like epic, orchestral,
Oh,
and
yeah.
cinematic kind of remix, and I am just waiting for the gothic horror arc in a TTRPG to pull that out and see if anybody notices, because it almost doesn't sound like that. So it almost doesn't like sound like the
That's
but
cool.
yeah. That wasn't
love
really
it.
relevant or related. It's just that's where my brain went.
That's
No, I
Ramblemancy,
mean
baby.
I dragged us over here. We were at books, and now we're over here.
No, it's a little bit. Hey, Ramblemancy. It's on the tin.
Yeah.
It says it on the
Yeah.
tin.
Genre like we're just talking about genre bits in TTRPGs, which I think so frequently wind up as genre mashups, right? When you're playing like big systems and stuff like that. If you're playing like your D&D or your Pathfinder or something like that, or Cypher especially is just a system built for genre mashups.
Yeah.
You most often are like kind of mooshing a few things together depending on what your GM and your players are all into. You wind up with elements of all of that just kind of in there. And so I think like I don't know, there's
Everyone's holding hands a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing that under my desk.
I'm holding my own hand right
of-
now as we speak.
a lot of times when you don't see my hands on screen, it's because I can I can continue fidgeting with them, but they're off screen.
This right here is definitely one of my ADHD like hand fidgets, so I don't pick up the random stuff on my desk and just fuck with it.
It's too late, man.
Using my thumb to tap the pad of all of my fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I realize I don't have any fidgets with my hands purely because they automatically always go into a locked position.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think about this.
No, but so we were having this conversation before stream too about like stuff that I keep learning is ADHD stuff 10 years after diagnosis. Like ADHD hands. Y'all know what this is? ADHD. It's when you do this. You just like sit there because you have to think. You know? I do this all the time, and I just now realize this is an ADHD thing.
Yeah, mine's more like this.
Yeah.
I'll sit there and do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I just put my hands like over my chest or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll catch myself, and it's usually, it usually goes like hand in hand with the whole like door phenomenon. Like you walk through the door, you don't know what you're doing, so you're just kind of.
Yep.
Why did I
I
come in here?
here?
I can do. Listen, I can do that going from this chair into that closet
Yeah.
behind me.
Yeah.
Like I will.
Yep.
I will go. I need to get a sweater, and I will go and open the door to my closet, and then be like, "Why am I here?"
You want to see a
I'll
magic
do
trick?
it just getting out of the chair. Just get up and you're like, wait, why did I get up?
You want to see a magic trick? I'm gonna make these thoughts disappear.
I'm hearing Heath Ledger's Joker.
That is the reference I was making.
Excellent.
Make these thoughts disappear.
Nearly Human just reminded me of this really small little story.
Mm-hmm.
Really small. Nearly Human just wrote idling mode, and
Yeah.
this is probably like one of the worst insults I've ever received. And I was standing in the kitchen the other day, just kind of like trying to figure out I don't know what was happening. I was just standing in the kitchen, and my partner walks in and looks at me and goes, "You look like an NPC character right now." I was like, "Why are you so rude?"
That's so mean.
She's like, "No, it's just because you're just standing there. You're just like swaying side to side. You're not doing it." It's like, I mean, you're not wrong, but
just
please
like,
don't.
Just like,
yeah.
Sometimes I do feel like an NPC because I'll just like spout random lines of like dialogue that was entirely unsolicited by the people around me, and
okay,
me.
so like, and I have my own NPC stories here too. 'Cause, like, I did work in a grocery store. I'll preface this. I did work in a grocery store for like a little more than a summer. Like basically like a good chunk of spring semester in the summer. I worked at a Whole Foods in Florida. One of the busiest stores in like that state. And I worked in the produce section, and of course when it comes to produce and there's Florida heat and all of that good stuff, like it's got to go very quickly from the cooler where it rests out onto the cooler out there. Otherwise, it will be floppy. And then a lady with a little dog in her purse that will come in and hold the kale in front of your face and say, "It's rotten." And I'm like, "Ma'am, that came off the truck today. It's wet. And it's 95 degrees outside with 100% humidity. And that kale was set on display for reasons only the marketing people can understand, in front of the door. There's some fresh over there. I'm not going to go in back and get more for you. I'm sorry." Anyway, this whole thing aside, I worked at a grocery store for a while, and I guess it happens to me, especially in like the fall and the winter, when I wear like quarter zips or like turtlenecks and stuff, things that conceivably a retail employee might be wearing, just in like neutral colors, because at least once or twice a year, I will be walking through an aisle of produce section, at my usual store, looking for something that I want, whatever it is that I'm making that week, or, hell, some fucking Cheez-Its, I don't know. And somebody will be like, "Excuse me, do you know where and I'll turn to them, and they'll be like, "Oh, you don't work here, do you?" I'm like, "No." Like, sometimes they'll get through the whole question and I'll answer it because I know. And then they'll be like, "Oh, you don't work here, do you?" So I don't know what it is about
heroes wear capes.
But like something about me when I am in a department store, because it's happened in like Target too, or like big department stores. Something about my presence and the way that I just act in department stores and grocery stores makes people think like I am like an employee or like an NPC there. They're just like, "Oh, this is a helpful looking NPC."
We are the same.
Yeah, customer service voice is not limited to verbal things. Sometimes customer service voice is a body language.
It is. Oh my God, I was in, like, this happens to me quite a bit too, where people will just ask me stuff and I'm like, I do do I look like I work here? I'll still answer them, but afterwards I have like internal contemplations of what it is I look like that made them be like, that person knows. Because I was in Massachusetts not too long ago, and I was actually walking around downtown with my luggage. Like I have a rolling bag behind me that I'm pulling, and somebody stopped me and was like, "Hey, do you know where a good place to eat around here is?" I was like, "Do I look like I'm from here? I'm carrying luggage."
I think it's just like if you just walk confidently enough, like you just look like you know what you're doing, and so people ask you for help.
I'm now mildly offended that nobody has ever asked me for my help unsolicited. Like, do I just exude, this guy has no idea what the fuck is going on? Is that just like the energy I bring to the table?
All right. So what you gotta do, Lucas, you gotta wear all green.
Okay.
You gotta get forest green. Here's what happened to me, and a lot, because I do go to and fro to my work, and it's a state park. Mm-hmm. And I wear primarily green, and I often get asked for just about all the things. Where's this? Where's that? And it's because I sometimes look like a park ranger.
That's
and it's no joke. No. I'm laughing because it is funny, but
it is funny because that you do genuinely look like a park ranger sometimes. In particular, that one night that earned you the nickname Free Range Man, because Freeman shows up to D&D and he's wearing like a short sleeve khaki kind of like olive button up shirt, olive shorts, and like hiking boots. And I was like, you look like a park ranger. And from that moment on, he was Free Range Man. Like, that was...
I love this so much. These are the origin stories I need.
There's a weird hat I was wearing, too, I swear.
That's right. Was it like one of those... Was it like a bucket hat? Like one of the fishermen?
Almost, yeah.
Like, it was almost like a bucket hat type. Yeah. You
just also like close to green.
Yeah, it was just... You just... Rule of lore. Yes, exactly.
Rule of lore.
Rule of deep lore. Like,
yeah, rule of deep lore. Yeah, actually, you know what though? That's not entirely true. What I said about never having been asked for help, because there was one time on when I was in college, I worked in my as a student ambassador for the admissions office. So like I would give tours all the time and like, you know, have correspondence with like prospective students and things like that, and put together like mass mailings that would go out to all the like juniors and seniors that were like looking at colleges. But one day I was not at work, and there was a prospective family that was like, they were looking very lost, and they came up to me and they were like, "Hey, so where is it that we're supposed," because it was like a visit day or something like that. They're like, where is it that we're supposed to be? You know, I know that this thing is happening at this time. I'm like, this is extremely funny because of all the students you could have walked up to. I'm the one who, like, and mistakenly asked about admissions things. I'm the one who actually knows, even though I am not working right now. So that did in fact happen. So like I feel a little better, but
it's just the energy and the place have to match, and then people ask.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's probably it. So I think what that means is that I have college campus like student ambassador energy. Yeah, I have
yeah.
Which is actually kind of hurtful to me, because like I feel like most of those people that I worked with have like summer camp counselor energy, which just irritates the fuck out of me. Like I have such a hard time with that particular personality type. It's just...
you know, now that you say that, I realize I've never made friends with a camp counselor. I've met a bunch, but it never went anywhere. And you know, I think I know why.
A lot of them are either extremely religious to a point where we have nothing in common, or are neurotypical, again, to the point where we have nothing in common.
You're like, I'm so happy for
like
you.
Just
and everything
aggressively neurotypical.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I feel that from here. That's 2 blocks away, I guess.
This is nothing against camp counselors at all. It's just that we do not relate. Like, we don't. It's we can get along. We can have a perfectly affable conversation. We will not relate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely no shade to camp counselors
Not at
by
all.
any means. I just realized that's an energy level that I just don't match.
I can't. It's exhausting. I can't match you where you're at. I can't meet you where you're at, and I'm not gonna ask you to come down to like my energy level because that would be disrespectful to your golden retriever personality, and I can't.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, listen. You are great at making me come out of my goblin cave when I'm around for a week, but I can't spend all of my time outside the cave. I have to be a goblin.
Yeah.
Goblin gonna do what goblin gonna do.
So
we dwell in different dimensions, and that is okay.
So Kate, you're right. That's a very different vibe of camp counselor. I'm specifically talking about like summer camp, like like the summer camp counselor personality. Yep. It's a very like hiking and nature camps, sort of a different energy, and I think
Let's sit around the bonfire, hold hands, and sing a song together.
Yeah.
Like, gather around the campfire and sing our campfire song.
No, I need to grab a drink.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Don't you just wake up so blessed you thank Jesus? No, I can't say that I do.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Cannot relate.
But
I'm happy.
I've never had that
you.
experience, but I'm like,
I'm cheering you on.
You can keep that energy.
You can, yes.
Yeah. Can't deal with anyone who thinks that forcing children to do group activities sounds like a good way to spend a summer. That's a very succinct way to put that, I think. Yeah.
Honestly, my nightmare.
I think like I was going to give people an opportunity to run up the counter earlier, but I think like what a lot of what contributes to my like let's ask this person for advice problem is that not just that I was a teacher, because I think a lot of teachers kind of slink through public places where they're like, I know my students come here after school, but I have to too. And like, I don't want you to see me buying a 24-pack to walk out of here to grade your papers over. Like, I think it's particularly that I was a substitute teacher. Sorry. Chat is I'm vindicating chat. The Hedgevit and Geek Outs were ready. I think it's particularly that I was a substitute teacher, because when you're a substitute teacher, you have to walk into a building with a certain amount of just like, I belong here. You have to walk in with so much that not just the staff believe that you work here, but that the middle schoolers believe that you work here and you know what's going on. And that is the harder thing. Adults are easy. Yeah. Like it's the clipboard and a hard hat thing. Like if you look enough like you belong, adults will just be like, yeah, you probably know what you're doing.
They smell fear.
Middle schoolers are the worst. They absolutely do. They freaking hunt you down.
Yeah.
And
they
then
can
like
zero in on your insecurities and just like tactical strike to your like.
They do. Holy shit, do they, man?
Yeah.
And then children that you thought hated you will be like, Mr. Boyle, and run up and fucking hug you when you walk into the school. Where are you subbing today? Is Miss What's her name gone? I'm like, no, I'm subbing for this teacher. And they're like, oh, I wish my teacher wasn't here. I'm like, you are so sweet.
And then you have to wonder, do they like me for a reason I should be proud of, or do they like me because I am a pushover? And that's the real question.
Yeah.
So anyway, what you got to do to make sure they like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, yes, you are there to help them provide like an education for these kids, but at the end of the day, you just gotta make it through with your soul intact.
Their approval is the only approval that's ever mattered.
Yeah. Like and the way that I think I got away, and we were talking about origin stories earlier. Mine is uninteresting. I was just like, I like playing bards, and I'm kind of a bard in real life, and so I picked Resident Bard as my handle in like 2014 or something.
I think that's delightful.
Yeah, it's uninteresting. It's delightful but uninteresting, I think.
Mine's my middle name, so.
Yeah, it's kind of the same energy though, like that I bring to that, where I'm just like, I am just gonna act so much like I belong, and that it's gonna work out. And then like my biggest strategy, I think, for getting along with kids, as their substitute teacher, was just to treat them like people, which sounds like it's a tautology, but really it's not. A lot of people treat children like they're idiots, teachers included sometimes. And sometimes what kids need is for someone to just talk to them like they're a little adult, which
just respect their personhood, and that's it.
They're more observant than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down and a 2-year-old came up to me. She just sat right next to me. I was like, "Oh, hi." And she's like, "I don't like my dad." I'm like, "Oh."
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know if I should talk.
I am not qualified for this conversation.
Is this like a bigger thing, or is this a like he didn't give me a dum dum? Like is which one is this?
Yeah, I was just like, I need to go. But I'm not gonna leave a 2-year-old by themselves either. So I'm like, where's your mom then?
Ooh, yeah.
Gotta respect children.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, sorry, I'm catching up with chat here.
Yeah, I was doing the same. Then I was also distracted. I heard somebody DM'd me on Discord, and I noticed that. And then I noticed that Matt had posted a video version and a GIF version of my journey. So I will be saving it on Discord all the time.
I love it.
I will never be able to intentionally replicate that level of dumb.
It was
magnificent
removal for me. It was the glasses remoul.
Yes. Honestly, I feel very honored to have been able to actually like be here to witness it as it was happening. Like, and to know that I was like the cause, like, ooh.
I think, and this is one of the things that I love. I'm so used to wearing glasses at this point. Like, they feel like part of my face. They are so much what I identify as like part of my facial shape, is having something here, whether it's square, round, rectangular, whatever. But there is so much, contacts or like, eye surgery to correct that would, I'll be much more convenient. Then people would be easier able to see the under eye bags, and I lose out on the emoting that you can do when you wear glasses.
Yeah. Nothing conveys disappointment quite so much as like...
Yeah, it's a real powerful move. It's a powerful move. It really is.
It is.
Whether it's like you take them off completely or like you like put them down, you like peer over the edge.
Yeah, and there's different levels of intensity, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the... And then you've got the...
Yeah.
So good!
Yeah.
I guess I realize this is why I never look at anybody with disappointment, because I just can't do it right.
And then of course, like there's the classic
glasses.
like there's the push your glasses up, like they get a little like
The anime moment where you're about to, shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, this guy's a badass because he just pushed his glasses up.
Yeah. And then there's
like to say some terrifying shit.
The variation on that, like if somebody does that, that they're about to intellectually hand you your ass. Like, that's not entirely true.
I'm gonna get these settled on my face so that I can take you apart. Like,
yeah, it's the actually, but with like nuclear warfare.
Yeah,
this is the actually, but like that what's gonna come out of their mouth is like genuinely they know what they're talking about, as opposed to the internet actually, which is just like, I'm gonna disagree with you on principle.
Yep.
Because I don't respect you as a person.
Glasses are such a powerful emoting tool. And if the price that I have to pay for that is being myopic, then I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I feel like it was a trade-off.
Yeah.
Nearly Human, that's a good one. Take my glasses off because I've seen enough.
Yeah.
My partner does this all the time.
Delightful.
Yes, my partner does this all the time. Cole will just be like, okay, that's enough. And just I've seen enough. That's
plus two. Yeah, glasses honestly feel like +2 charisma, -1 to perception, or like -1 to 5 to perception, depending on how bad your eyesight is. You know.
See, I
Oh,
get to
I
cheat because
love
I don't
that.
need these. These are blue light filter glasses, so I get to
Mhm.
cheat a little bit. So,
You cheater.
Yeah.
Also, like sometimes a certain pair of glasses, like putting them on too, depending on what they are.
Those are so good.
Yeah. Very good.
I feel like you're about to freaking offer me two choices that I have to pick from.
Oh yeah.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
I I want a pair of glasses that stand
Freeman's about to
alone.
free you from the Matrix.
Yeah.
Do you
Goodness, they
take the
really
whole
do.
wheat and stay asleep, or do you eat the rye and like?
Oh my god. Yes.
Oh God, yes.
Oh God.
I love it so much.
Mm.
Nico had an off-topic question earlier. That I was
Yes.
just
I love
scrolling
it.
back.
Let's go.
Nico's a completely off-topic question. Earlier today, I was watching a game designer stream a playtest of their new tarot-based TTRPG, Cycles of the Eye by Jump Over the Edge, for those interested. And John had their Kickstarter for Terminus earlier this year, and it makes me wonder, do you ever think that card-based tabletop RPGs are going to dethrone dice-based systems? That's a good question. And then I think there's an addendum to that. And also, what do you think the differences are between the two? That's a fun design question. I like that question.
I'm trying to separate in my answer the my own preferences from whether I think the trends will go one way or another, and it's hard for me. Like I'm sitting here going like no, like the card system is not as tactile as the dice, and I like the dice better, so it's gonna be that forever. And separating that from like, do I actually think that? And I honestly can't tell you. I don't know if I have an answer for that.
I don't think they would replace one another because I feel like they do very different things and serve very different purposes. If anything, I could see
Yeah.
them combining in very neat ways
That would be
and being
super
able to
cool.
complement different things, but I
Yeah.
could never see them replacing one over the other just because they're so different.
Yeah, I think so. I think like dice are such like it because basically what we're talking about here is resolution mechanics, right? Using a deck of playing cards or the base assumption here I think is like a French deck of playing cards with your four suits, one like ace through 10, and then three face cards, Jack, Queen, King, two jokers. And like there are ways that you can structure the resolution of things based on the randomness of that deck, or separating it certain ways and then drawing from it. I think that most often cards, especially tarot cards, but playing cards too, are used as like a prompting mechanic. They're really good for prompting action, I think.
Yeah.
Especially tarot cards. Like there's a lot of conversation among like the intersection of like people who practice witchcraft and people who play like tabletop RPGs about like tarot and its usage in games. And most often, like people who are most excited about tarot is when it's used in a way that encourages essentially like reading within the context of your game, taking this card, using it as a prompt to then like alter the story or do something, as opposed to like, I'm going to draw the Page of Cups and that's going to count as an 11 to hit.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm not what I was thinking, but you mentioned about like the differences between like the functionality of the like cards versus dice and cards as used for prompting and something. I just had somebody explain the game of Alice is Missing to me, like literally just like 20 minutes before we like turned on cameras or anything like that. And that's a little bit from my very limited understanding of that game, which I got a rundown of in like 5 minutes. From what I understand, the cards like prompt action or like on the part of the players, but they don't resolve action.
Yeah,
and I think that's very cool and interesting, and I do really like that aspect of cards. It either our card based system or cards in addition to like the dice based system. Like I think Weave was very like card based in that way, where like it would have prompt, but you still rolled dice to determine like the resolution of certain things.
Because I think it's really hard to beat dice for just numeric randomness, right? I roll a d20, there is a 5% chance of any outcome on that die occurring, right? And then you can adjust that with character stats. And so thank you, Matt, for the counter. That's a new one. Oh, thank you, Matt. Feather in my beanie. Yeah, I think I think they serve in most cases distinct enough purposes that I don't think one will ever replace the other in terms of trends. I think for one to replace the other, honestly, what it would probably take is somebody at like Paizo or WotC putting out a like if like D&D 6e came out and instead of being a D20 system was now like a card-based system, I think that's probably what it would take. I think it would take a major publisher deciding, hey, we're going to take the game in this direction, and now this is how you resolve things instead of rolling dice. And I think that's unlikely for games like that. But I could see card-based, because I know that I've worked with people who have made card-based like fantasy role-playing games before, kind of like aiming to make something that's like D&D but doesn't use dice. And I think there's potential for that. I also think I really liked what you said, Chanz. I agree. I think there's a lot of potential for playing cards or tarot cards or custom decks of cards to be featured in role-playing games as ways to prompt or complicate or add to the narrative of the game while still allowing for other colder, I guess, like more rigid resolution mechanics.
I feel I only just started playing Darkest Dungeon recently, and I feel like that game, even though it doesn't necessarily do either of those things, kind of has mechanics that fit with both what cards and dice do, because like you have the different characters who have different abilities, and those abilities can very much be like cards. How you play them will depend on what's going on. But then they have little things like, oh, your speed is like 1 and that guy's speed is -1. But behind the scenes, they actually roll a d8 to determine who goes first. So there's never a consistent like, oh, I have 1 speed, so I'm higher than that guy. I'm always going to be first. It's like, no, it's actually very random every single turn. And so I could see that easily translating to how cards and dice could be used together. And God, that would be such a cool system.
That is, yeah. I was thinking that too, because like the moment, Chanz, you mentioned like the two like mechanics coming together, my brain started going like that'd be super cool. As like, I like the idea of cards as like a prompts system, you know, but even as like introducing new mechanics, right? Having a card system that like not only does it prompt the story, but also even like there's just like a new mechanic on the table that now you like you draw a card and it like adds a mechanic that now everybody has to work around or something like that. That would be super cool. I think something like that would be so interesting because it adds an entirely new layer of randomness. Hell, I might start doing like homebrewing something like this for my like home D&D game. That sounds fucking cool.
It sounds so fucking sick.
No, I think
there's a really good way to do like environmental hazards and like weather, for example, right? Rather than randomly rolling it on a table, you shuffle a deck of cards and you pull one out and like, okay, this is a circumstance that is currently in play, and now you all have to like it's combat, but you also have to deal with like a violent thunderstorm or something like like that would be really interesting.
Yeah, and like there's this isn't a particularly like I think new idea, but using the number of the suit to indicate the severity, and then you can do something special for like face cards, or you could do it with like a.
Did we just right here live on Ramblemancy solve a design problem that I had with my overland travel system?
I think we did. Sometimes it'd be that way.
We love to see it. Goddamn, it's just
it's Lucas's turn to walk away.
Sorry, it's different walking away. Hold on, sorry. I'm gonna do this better. Like, very different energy. Very different energy.
Oh, you were supposed to come back with a notebook.
Yeah, like we're supposed to hear like the click of a pen off screen.
We need a dramatic. Yes.
Take 2. Let's go.
What? No.
Yes.
The
Does your
props are
thing
out.
say roll of lore?
It does. It says a 100 because we made it at one point. Almost 100.
Amazing.
I forgot
Oh
you
my
had
God.
that.
I know. I bring it out when I think no one is exactly when it's been forgot, and then I'm like, this is a good time. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but genuinely, I think
Oh.
this whole conversation just solved a design problem that I was facing, and now I'm ADHD brain is stimulated, which means I might actually get it done now.
Yeah, I was like, please explore this and return with your findings.
Yeah,
I think there's also just like this. The ideas are kind of like creative juices kind of flowing here. I think there's like a really interesting system that probably uses some dice, or maybe that probably uses some dice and then just fully incorporates tarot, including like the suit numbers as part of the resolution mechanic. Not necessarily, or at least as part of the action. I think there's a very interesting. There's perhaps like a game because of the associations I think of tarot in general. Like I think there's a game there where the number, like the place in the suit, or the fact that it's a court card or a major or minor, like a major arcana, could affect the type of problem or the type of action that takes place, and how much that counts for, and then like you use dice to make the final resolutions while still like tying like story prompts or ideas to the cards themselves. It'd be a very cool game, I think, about like your local witch solving problems, or like a group or a coven of witches dealing with like essentially just like a grounded like witchcraft like role playing system. There's an idea just sort of circling in my brain about that.
I love it.
We have a new command prompt, by the way, a new counter. Thank
Prop.
you,
Matt. Matt, you are on it tonight.
Yeah. No, but
I'm
genuinely,
loving
I can't think about anything else now, because like that fully solved the problem that I had with my my overland travel system, with like determining like the types of mishaps that take place on a travel system, because you draw each suit on the deck of cards would be a different type of mishap, and then each number on that card would determine the severity of the mishap. And
Yep.
I love it so much. This is fantastic.
Also, Edge of Fit like fully calling me out, saying we all know Lucas wouldn't read those notes anyway, and it's. I hate that you're right, but he's out of line, but he's right.
Are we the same person, Lucas?
No, I was just talking about this with my friend the other day about how like planners and I just do not go well together, because if I write it down, then I'm like, oh well, I've written it down, and I delete it from my brain, but then I never look at the planner, and so
literally, this is me and all of my meetings at work. I have not read any of these since I wrote them.
Yep, I write my to-do lists on cards that I set on a holder in front of me underneath my monitor, and they are in my line of sight. And like I have never felt something. It's one of the reasons that I think that Brie and I work well together. We were in our meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we were trying to plan all our shit out. And she's like, I need like a general in front of my like board of territories. I need a giant calendar of the whole year to put everything on, because if I can't see it all at once, it's not real. And so she ordered a giant 12-month calendar to stick to her fucking wall. And now during our meetings, whenever we have to talk about shit like this, and then I'll be like, ready for your close-up? And she's like, no, I'm just looking at the calendar. Like the war table, like, okay. Yes. And that's what, like, I would have done that too, because I have a wall that it's perfect for right over here, but I'm moving soon. And when I move, I cannot wait to just put a giant fucking calendar up. It's the only way. I have to be able to see it at all times, because otherwise, if I write it down and close the planner's gone. I won't pick it up for 6 months. Like,
incredible.
Yeah, no,
that's a mood.
I once in college tried to use a planner for anything, and never have I missed more appointments and assignments than that 1 week I tried to use a planner.
I don't know. I need to
Genuinely.
have, like you said, like I need to have it right there on a
Mm-hmm.
calendar. If it's in something I have to actively flip through or find because I put it somewhere, then it's not going to happen as well. But if it's
Yeah.
something that's on like a big board, like if I get one of these,
Mm-hmm.
a bigger, and then just kind of like line it out, make my own thing, then it's not something I'm going to miss. It's like right there.
Yeah,
I might
I
do
will
that.
say I never tried having just like a calendar on my wall. That might have been different because then it would have been there. But I know myself well enough that I do not have the ability to adhere to routine enough to keep writing stuff on the calendar. So yeah,
I've
Yep.
I've I've recognized well enough for myself that I need to just cycle about every 6 months. It feels like between about 3 or 4 different methods of keeping track of my life. Sometimes it's setting lots of alarms in my phone. Sometimes it's a Google Calendar. Sometimes it's a big thing on like the wall. Sometimes it's a regular ass planner, and I can use that. And sometimes it's the sticky notes on my monitor or my desk, or like the
yeah,
sticky notes for note cards. What my brain decides works changes at seemingly random intervals.
Hmm.
So,
Same though.
mm-hmm.
That's why it's good to
yep.
have a multi-tool.
I think listen, I don't have a psych degree. I'm not a sociologist. I imagine, given what I know about being a writer and about being a creative and having to challenge yourself to not allow things to become perfectly routine, because then your brain starts like just doing the like
Autopilot.
the
Yeah,
autopilot stuff. I have a feeling that what probably happens is if something becomes too routine for me, it gets autopiloted and then it just gets erased.
yeah.
And so it has to be something new that I have to force myself a little bit to do, but not so much that executive dysfunction kicks in.
This is absolutely a thing, and this happens to me all the time. It's the kind of thing where like it becomes routine, and like you said, your brain kicks into autopilot. It'll happen to me because something becomes routine. I'll just assume I did it. You know,
Yep.
I'll just assume that I did it. And then it turns out I didn't. And this may be like a little bit of a TMI situation, but I will say that a thing that happens with the most often, that is unfortunately the most difficult to hide, is putting on deodorant. Um, where like it becomes routine, and I assume that I did it, and then later I'm like, oh, I definitely did not. Ooh,
Yep.
okay.
That's a fucking mood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good thing I work from home.
Yep.
Yep.
There's yeah. The other thing,
Yep.
and the other thing is that I think sometimes if a task becomes, particularly with people with ADHD, if a task becomes too routine, then it stops being stimulating, and then it stops being stimulating. You stop doing it.
Please don't talk to me about I spent 10 years in IT and then was like, wow, I need to leave because I'm not doing this anymore.
Yep. It becomes physically painful when it stops
Oh
being
my God.
stimulating, and it's
I,
like,
Yep.
yeah. Yep.
That's
yep.
it's I think it's why I'm very appreciative that the bouldering gym that I go to has about 2 new walls every week.
That's very
Um,
cool. I
That
like
is really
that.
nice.
so yeah, they have like basically 2 big top out boulders that you can climb. They're one big top out boulder you can climb all the way on top of, a smaller one with fewer problems on it, and then they've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, the cave, five,
I like that
six,
one.
and then like another little kind of like advanced youth area. And
Mhm.
so like there's enough walls, and they have like a dedicated route setting team that basically Monday they come in and replace most of a wall, and then Thursday they come in and replace most of, basically like the oldest 2 walls in the gym. They set all new problems on, and so about every month or so the gym's entirely new.
Yeah.
And that like anytime I've tried doing regular weightlifting, it's the problem I run into, where I'm like, yep, I'm going back to do the same thing for like the 7th or 8th week in a row. this has become a routine, but is no longer stimulating because I'm just doing the same shit.
Yeah.
And so I just stop.
John, I have to say, so recently I found some, like, I was telling Chans that I like went down sort of like a deep dive rabbit hole of like ADHD TikToks and reels and memes in general, and there was one of them in particular. I sent this to Amethyst so she can back me up on this. But there's one of them in particular that's a video of just like a compilation of this guy reading a bunch of tweets about ADHD, and just sort of general like neurodiverse memes. And one of them was neurodivergent people wander around in packs like poorly emotionally regulated wolves. So if all of your friends have ADHD, then I have bad news for you.
Oh my god.
And I feel like this relates to this situation, John, very much so.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm lit up like the 4th of July.
Shit. I have a lot of contemplating to do after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was getting in to see this therapist, they had me take some of like the standard assessments and stuff, and I was like, you can throw the should this person get an ADHD diagnosis one on there, and I filled it out, and I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be answering a resounding yes to as many of these questions as I am. This shouldn't feel like a description of my life.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Verdiman is in here because I think this is relevant. I don't think Verdiman is in here, but I started climbing in January, about mid-January. You can run the counter up again. And, you know, I basically was like, I want to go 3 times a week, which is, you know, like steady enough that I'll see like pretty steady growth out of it because I needed something in the winter that would keep me moving because normally I walk a lot, but when it's frozen Minnesota winters, you can't really do that. Not without bundling up, and who the fuck wants to go outside when it's 2 degrees out?
Yeah.
And so obviously I start with like very tame, like V0s, just kind of like getting used to climbing. And last week before I had like a bit of a bout with my chronic illness, which is kind of knocked me down a few pegs. I was climbing like V4s, V5s, which is like mid upper intermediate climbs. And Verdiman was like, he said something to the effect of, you know, you don't just like pick up hobbies and put them down, John. You pick them up, you get frighteningly good at them in a very short amount of time, and then you put them down. And he was like, it's superhuman. I'm like, it's not superhuman, Steve. It's called hyperfixation. That's not being like superhuman in my ability to learn things. I'm just ADHD, I think.
Yeah.
Wow, that hits a spot for me. I think I had a couple of people say that to me very recently too, and I'm like, no, it's just hyperfocus.
Yeah.
You know,
what
I can't.
What was that meme? There's somebody. Oh, somebody shared an image with me. That's just like, hey, I really like your personality, and they're like, it's a disorder.
Yeah. One of the memes in that same compilation that like I sent to Amethyst the other day was like half of my personality is just symptoms, and
I just about spat my water on my fucking keyboard.
Oh,
you're so funny. Thanks. That's how I deflect. Don't say that. I'm really enjoying doing art right now. And the thing is, Edgefit, is that you won't stop doing art. Because I also like I picked up doing digital art, and I drew very, very much for like a year, and then I kind of fell off of drawing consistently, but I still color fairly often. I don't do as much like from scratch drawing, but like that was born out of having a lot of fun making memes, and also just like a desire when I was younger. I used to draw a lot when I was younger, and so what I'm saying is like you'll probably go through phases with it where there at some point you'll be like, I just don't want to draw very much right now. And you might not. You might just stick with drawing. It might just be a thing that
Yeah.
becomes part of your regular routine. But like, if
Yep.
you are like me, what might happen is you might set it down for 6 months, you might set it down for a year, year and a half, and then all of a sudden you will have the sudden desire to draw and do nothing else, and it'll be right back. And you'll have to relearn how to do some of it, but the good news is you were doing that.
And you know what? I do have to say one of the biggest lessons that, like, obviously getting a diagnosis didn't fix everything for me, but what it did do is it gave me permission to forgive myself for a lot of my little like things that I would do. And that's genuinely one of those big things is sometimes you're going to be really, really into this one thing and you're going to do it. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to get good at this thing. And then you just sort of like lose your stimulation and fixation on that thing and you put it down. But like, maybe you'll come back to it and that's still you doing it. So like, you just because you're not doing it very diligently or whatever, the important thing is just like try not to beat yourself up about the fact that you're not doing it. It's really not your fault.
Yeah. I also still I still make a lot of use of the skills that I acquired drawing, doing other things. Like it has been enormously helpful in me, like for making games and stuff, being able to like effectively communicate what I want out of art. How I think about the kind of art that I want has changed since I've drawn it. How I can give feedback to my artists. Like it's helpful for like graphic design related things. Like, the skills you learn, that is the fun. That is one of the upsides, I think, of like hyperfocus and hyperfixations like that is you do still learn a lot of stuff and then you still have it. You still carry that forward, and so like it's not like if you stop drawing consistently because you pick up something else that's interesting to you for months, a year or two or whatever, that doesn't mean that you didn't do it, and it doesn't erase the value of it. It's not what you want to do right now. Definitely done more creative stuff in general after doing art. I even made that Fishblade game. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this is what one of my college professors wrote a very, very cool book called The Hands-on Life, which I feel like I should have a counter for as well, but you don't need to put that one in. But like, one of the things that I feel like I took away from that book was that doing creative things begets doing more creative things. And you don't have to be good at everything you do. You don't have to make product-worthy stuff at everything that you are creative. In fact, you shouldn't, I think. But being creative at all in doing one thing helps you be more creative.
Yeah.
There's
100%.
always a skill or two that you can transfer to the next thing that you do.
It's true. Yeah, when I started making dice, I started with the very basics of just taking a singular die, or like I bought a mold from someone else and that. Through that, I learned to make molds, so I learned to work with silicone. And then through that, I learned to use Blender so I can 3D create my own dice.
Yeah.
And then I'm working with a friend who has a 3D resin printer, and so I'm learning about that now. And I'm just like, all these skills I transfer to other things.
Yeah.
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 So it's that. Yeah.
Well,
again, we have arrived at creativity simply for creativity's sake is a good thing.
And honestly, I can't think of a better way to end off our episode, which we have reached. We are now here at the end, which I don't know when that happened.
Heck.
Yeah.
I don't either. What do you mean?
Yeah. It's just over now. We're
here
here
so
at the
rambling
end.
still to do.
I know.
We will do it again then.
That I think is the biggest issue. I'm still fidgeting. Just see, I picked up the pen and I never put it down. That's I think the biggest issue with Ramblemancy, right? Is that you'll get on a good ramble, and you're going, and then it's over, but you still got that energy like built up from like going, and but it's just over. Then what do you do?
I'm gonna leave a question for everybody. Don't answer it. Just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Looney Tunes. They're actually Eldritors.
Fuck.
I got you.
And that's the end of the show.
Good night, everyone.
Well,
Thank you so much. You can find us offline
wish.
in a number of places. While you ponder this question, if you'd like to talk more about it, you can if you have answers or thoughts in response to the visceral horror of that notion, you can respond to them in our Discord, !Discord in chat here. It's a great way to catch us online. Kate, I did see that you joined and I gave you a member role, so you can see all of the appropriate channels in our Discord right now. If you want to know what is what, there's a channel I think called something to the effect of that. Channel directory, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, our Discord's great. It's a great way to keep up with exactly what we're doing. And if you're sub to us here on Twitch, you also get access to some of our Patreon benefits, which is one of the best ways to support us. A Patreon sub gets you access to Media Club and Tabletop Tool Chest. Media Club is a once-a-month kind of just manifesto on everything that Lucas Freeman and I have been into, and sometimes friends.
Our hyperfixations.
Yes. You get a window into what we're fixated on.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like media, games, music, like books, shows, whatever. Tabletop Tool Chest is something that is designed to be kind of like system agnostic. You can take little bits like adventure hooks or items or people along various genres, plug them into your games or make one-shots out of them. Yours to use, and if you sub on Twitch and are in the Discord, or if you are sub to our Patreon, you get access to the whole backlog. It's huge. There's tons of stuff in there. So if you're ever hurting for something to fill out a session or an arc, great place to look. There's of course higher tiers. You can check this out on our Patreon, get input on the shows that we're working on, stuff like that. But yeah, if you want to drop us like a one-time donation, we have a coffee.
Also, as Freeman is displaying right now, we also have Rule of Lore merch. So if you want to proudly display your affiliation with these weird nerds, you can do that. They are very comfy, and yeah, they're very good. They have really cool like logo on them, you know.
Really, they're really comfortable. Like you said, they have a cool logo. I'm gonna buy 7 of them so I can just wear one every day.
There you go.
One every day.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they do come in different colors as well. So yeah.
Yep. I might get one for each day, different color.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think there's that many colors, but there are different colors. Chanz, a lot of the people who follow us here already follow you, but just in case they don't, where can they find you?
I am Chanzlyn on everything.
Perfect.
Literally everything.
Excellent. It's great when you can just say, this is my handle everywhere.
Easy peasy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Try to keep it simple.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There's one last thing that I have to say, which I forgot to announce at the beginning. Because our Ramblemancy schedule and the schedule of like this other thing have been so weird, I haven't had a chance to actually like announce it on stream. But I am currently in a Star Trek Adventures actual play over on Rune and Relic's Twitch channel, playing the Chief of Security, Lieutenant Alec Caraballo, and we are this is Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time, but not. I realize this is a weird time to announce this because this Saturday we actually are taking the week off, but you can catch the backlog of the first 3 episodes, 2 of which I am in because I missed the first one, but you can catch the backlog on the Rune and Relic YouTube channel. They are all, I just checked, they are all uploaded there. We are Star Trek Intelligence. It's very fun. It's a fun group of people. And we have established already that we are the Gremlin crew. So,
Cool.
if you are missing our actual plays here on Rule of Lore, but you do want to fill that hole somewhere, Saturdays 3 p.m. Pacific time, Rune and Relic Twitch channel, and or YouTube channel. So yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. I'm gonna finally put this pen down. It's great having you back, Chanz. I'm really glad that we were finally able to have you back, and we're definitely gonna have to do it again really soon because I can tell there's more rambling that needs to happen. So
I love being here, so anytime.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. We are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm pretty sure we're on next week, and then it's moving in con season at some point for me towards the end of this month.
We'll see you next week, and then after that it will be TBD. But we'll see you next week for Ramblemancy right here on this very channel. But if not, we'll see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night and good zone, everybody.
Mwah.